How is it going, YouTube? We are going to be talking about the latest patch in Wolcen. If you would like to read literally everything, the link is going to be down below or on the top right right now. Please click it. Um, so that said, what they're trying to do. So recently they did mention on one of the lists that they released, they said that like we know that unique items are capable of being upgraded in the this champion thingy. Um, when you upgrade the rarity of a unique item, it was actually giving you a legendary item in return, and it was still maintained the every single unique stat this unique item had. And they said that like this is not intended in the upcoming patch. We would like to address this, and in return, actually, like there was a lot of community feedback, and most of the people mentioned and agreed on the fact that like this is actually very unique to Wolcen. Some of the people are actually like saying something along the lines of like, just because of this I continued playing because I wanted to see like what sort of items I can create out of the uniques. So I could definitely see that too, even though I didn't necessarily like jump into that just yet. I think I'm taking it pretty slow when it comes to my progression in the game. That being said though, with this patch they didn't actually stop it. So we know that you appreciate the possibility to change unique items into legendary items and to craft them. However, we have to remove these possibilities for the moment. We are definitely not against implementing it as a feature in future. We find the possibilities that it offers interesting, but we want to spend time in designing it so the system works and it is properly integrated with the rest of the game. What I understand from this last sentence is the fact that like they think it is, this was definitely unforeseen, it's definitely unintended, and at the same time, obviously, because of this, some of the stuff are incredibly broken, like the trial belt. And even though the community is very interested in this, design, they will have to remove it now, and perhaps we're gonna like have them implemented later on as a feature for us. It makes sense. It's all right. Another big change is everybody saw this coming. It is going to be the bleeding edge change. Now, the bleeding edge, especially these two lines, I would like you to check it out. Not those two, these two. The unstoppable momentum, one of the modifiers of the bleeding edge, now also adds 10-second cooldown to the skill. That is absolutely insane. That's ridiculous. This alone is capable of breaking most of the build guides that is on YouTube right now. Another thing is that like bleeding edge, the despotic perseverance, reduce the damage multiplier per ailment stack from 20% to 2%. That is like a ridiculous nerf also. So bleeding edge is definitely gutted. One thing that everybody was on the same page is that like it was absolutely broken. The ability alone was able to take a character that wasn't even like relatively geared or well built into literally the entire game, and it was still ridiculously powerful. So that is not the case anymore. There is a lot of feedback coming to Wolcen Studios right now after this patch for the fact that like everybody's character that was playing with Bleeding Edge or with a build that is utilizing this kind of Bleeding Edge, let's say. I don't necessarily know how to say this, but there are lots of haters, needless to say. A lot of people are like, I'm done. You're taking away my fun. So this is not how you should be fixing stuff. I'm done with this game, etc. There are lots of comments like this on both like the forums, Twitter, Steam, community website and stuff like this. It's actually quite ridiculous, even on YouTube comments as well. So I'm very curious what you guys think about like when it comes to their approach to what how they're fixing the bleeding edge or how they're balancing it. I would really like to know what you guys are thinking. So drop a comment below. My point of view is that like it was broken, it needed to be fixed. Maybe putting like a 10-second cooldown to ability is not necessarily the best approach, to be honest with you. I didn't personally play with bleeding, as you know that I've only made like a caster so far. First did a mentalist and then it became into some sort of like a dark mage. Right now it's still progressing, but the way I see things is that like if I had like a main character and I was able to spam ability and then now it is a 10-second cooldown, obviously it wouldn't be feeling so great. But at the same time, if I knew that like it was absolutely broken, perhaps I would give them the benefit of doubt and wait for them to balance their entire end game. We're completely aware right now, the Wolcen studio would like to have some sort of like a seasonal content available to their players. So before entering this phase, they would probably like to, smoothen out the bugs, fix out as much as they can. You know, the exploits, everything gone, and on top of everything, there's going to be like quite a lot of like balancing. So we don't necessarily know right now if, you know, builds that are not necessarily so geared are should be capable of reaching the very very late game at all. Maybe they don't want that at all, you know. So I would like to take a step back and watch how they're going to be balancing their game, and see if they would like to, you know, have sort of like a meta game, maybe have a couple of builds, you know, leading the way and then changing after a couple of months, so on and so forth. So it would be, I can see both of the sides, definitely. I wouldn't have been like happy to lose some sort of like a character that I'm playing for, like, you know, for some time now. Instantly now it has like a 10-second cooldown, and I can, you know, I cannot do nowhere near the same difficulty that I was able to one shot. That is definitely kind of disappointing. But if you're one of those players, check my YouTube page right now. I have a build for you. It's called the Dark Mage, and it's capable of pretty much clearing the entire game all the way up to like level 160 or something with the gear that I have collected so far, which is absolutely trash. So with the upgrades that I'm going to be doing, it will most likely be finishing the entire thing. This said, that was a nice plug. What is next? The next highlight is going to be the summoning skills, guys. This is a very, very, sorry for that sound, apologies. This is a very, very interesting and promising change from them. It still is, in my opinion, not enough. These lines right over here are like the most important parts. It says summon AI. Summons now move faster, stay ahead of their summoner when traveling. This is not necessarily 100% the case, but they do definitely try. I think they're kind of like body blocking each other, so most of the summons are in fact behind you still. But before, the AI was trying to basically like follow your character. Now I think they're actually trying a little bit to like follow the cursor, just like your character does. So this is definitely a good change, because otherwise, you will literally, like, if your character is not necessarily a hybrid, if it's like a pure summoner, you're literally going next to the monsters, and then you were waiting for your monsters to arrive, and then they were deciding to attack as well. Mind you, the AI is not necessarily so great when it comes to like engaging the monsters either. And the second point now says engaging the targets a little bit from further away. So that's good as well. The melee summons are also getting, the attack shape has been improved. They now hit a larger area, so they have like a bigger cleave range. I suppose that's a good change too. But as I said, I did recently just make a character after this patch. I'm about like level 18 or something as a summoner. It still doesn't necessarily feel the greatest, and at the same time, in my opinion, the passive tree alone, the gates of what, fate or something? What is it called again in this game? Let me see. Gate of Fates. That's what it is. Okay, it's just under it actually. It's funny. It's right there. Anyways, like, the passive tree doesn't necessarily offer that many things when it comes to a summoner character, in my opinion. Nevertheless, I'll try and like push the character a little bit further, and if I can come up with something good, I would actually like to, you know, make some sort of like a build guide to a summoner as well, simply because I do know that for whatever reason in RPGs, summoners are like, you know, 1/3 of the entire community is playing summoners, and they're incredibly passionate about, you know, just summoning. I'm not one of those, but I'll try my best to like come up with like a good thing. But just from what I saw from like 18 levels, they still do look a little bit shaky. I'll definitely advise you or recommend you, if you're gonna like check out the summoner, check out the parasite, because the buffs to the parasite are absolutely insane. As you can see, 50% cast and attack speed, 300% bonus damage to the possessed monster, 100% movement speed to the possessed monster, and there has been some sort of like a buff to the minion damage of one of the unique items, I think, in the game, right? That's what it means, I think. So those are like the big changes to the summons. There has been also some like adjustments to the summon unit's damages, but one thing that I don't necessarily understand from this is that like I still don't necessarily understand how the summons are scaling so well in this game. You know, these writings, they don't necessarily mean so much to me, to be honest with you. I would like to see the damage numbers, and unfortunately in our interface, in our user interface in Wolcen, don't necessarily see the damage numbers from our pets. Not only that, we don't see their HPs, we don't necessarily see how many of those we control. We never know if they die unless, like, you know, the screen is absolutely clear, and I'm like, I have to press the same ability a couple of times to see if my character is going to be attempting to summon another zombie to understand if I lost a zombie or not. So it is, right now is not necessarily the best time to play summoners still. But at the very least, they know that they're lacking and they're working on it, and that is in my opinion the best thing to say. The last thing that I'm going to be mentioning, guys, before I'm closing this, is going to be the fact that the critical hit damage changes. Right over here, I think it starts. The critical damage bonus, which is also nerfing my character as well. I cannot necessarily tell if this is like a very big nerf to my character specifically, or if it's like a, you know, tiny little bit of a nerf. I think it is kind of in between. It's not necessarily a small nerf at all, simply because like I was running all these nodes that I mentioned. So critical damage bonus has been reduced on many nodes, and we are talking about the Gates of Fate, so the passive tree, from 20% to 15, from 14 to 10, and from 10 to 5. And now on top of everything, this is the biggest one that I have seen, and this is, in my opinion, a little bit questionable as well. The merciless lethality critical damage modifier is reduced from 100% to 60%. This is the node that is capable of giving you, it used to at least, 100% crit damage, but it was nerfing you by 30%. So it was saying like minus 30% damage done. This is not necessarily 1/3 of your damage gone, poof, because like this is coming like before all the other calculations are in, so it's like a little bit less. Actually a lot less than just, you know, 1/3 of your entire damage. So it is not as big as big of a nerf it is. But the critical hit damage part now is actually like making the node itself questionable to take, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, 60% critical hit damage is not necessarily the greatest thing to take from a single click, and let alone this is not a single click either. If I'm not mistaken, there are actually like 3 nodes that are building up to this, and those 3 nodes are actually not necessarily the biggest nodes either. So we can check them out actually real quick right here. No, he's updating his website, I think. This was not a thing. Is it this one? Exactly. Yeah, it has already been updated. That's pretty cool. So 18% critical chance, 18% critical hit chance. My character's critical hit chance is 65% right now. Let me tell you this, I definitely don't need these. They're not necessarily dead nodes, but they're not great. In another 18%, so I'm okay to drop these. Probably even this now. So I will be messing around with my like Dark Mage in the upcoming days. I'll be streaming at twitch.tv/Malagant if you would like to check it out. You will most likely be seeing quite a lot of like summoning, and you will most likely see quite a lot of, excuse me, the Dark Mage content as well. And I'll be messing around with my build, and if I you know, decide that like this was not worth it, or I will change some other stuff as well in between, I'll definitely be updating my build in my channel as well. So check that out in the upcoming days. I don't necessarily know if the critical hit damage nerf was the right way to go, but then again, what I want to mention is that like maybe the developers are thinking that, you know, the very, very late game should not necessarily be that accessible at all, and that would be very understandable when all things are considered. Not every character, or maybe none of the characters, should be able to reach there unless you're like in co-op play. We will see how they're going to be coming up with their balancing. But one thing that I can tell you about like critical hit damage nerf on the passive tree is obviously like some sort of like a slight buff to the other things, right? Since like you're going to be dropping these points and you'll be considering to take something else instead. What I would like to see them do is that, especially this purple side and this green side, they're very underwhelming compared to this red side, the soldier side. Every single character of mine, even if it's a pure caster, I start from the soldier tree because I will use the crit, so I'll take the crit damage, right? And I'm going to be using the HP, and I'm going to be using the willpower cost reduction. I'm going to be using the maximum health. I'm going to be using the toughness. This side right over here is ridiculously powerful compared to the green or the purple starter side. That doesn't necessarily mean that like I'm not going to be putting any points to the other side either, but all I'm saying is that like it is very overwhelming. So when you look at the fact that like critical hit damage was overwhelming compared to the other things, there are other stuff like this as well. So I would like them to be buffed instead of, you know, just this side being nerfed or that side being nerfed. You know, I would like the others to be offer something a little bit better that also makes it a little bit more fun for the players like myself to you know, try to figure out something better in return instead of just like losing a tree or like losing a point simply because it's been gutted. The same thing can actually be said about the bleeding edge builds as well. But on that end, I am not necessarily certain if it was possible in the first place, because the skill itself was absolutely ridiculous. It was just broken all over the place. So it wouldn't be that fair to say or criticize them that bad in that. Another thing that I'll mention, and this is going to be last thing about the critical hit damage, is that like this nerf right over here is obviously making it so much more important for you to get critical hit damage from your weapon, from your accessories, and perhaps if it is possible to roll it on any other unique that you could get as well on your gear. So it is extremely important. And also obviously like the gems. Gems are going to be pretty important as well in that. If I'm not mistaken, they did nerf some of the gems. So let's look at this. Tier 1 to tier 12 modifiers now have critical hit damage value of like 5 to 6, 19 to 20, instead of 5 to 10 to 25 to 30. This is the accessories. This is the gems, the critical hit damage value. For the attacks and the spells is 9 to 20 instead of 14 to 25. It still is a big nerf if you ask me, guys. And the global critical is 4, which is very bad. And 15 to 15, it used to be basically tier 12 was, you know, 20 to 20. Now it is 15 to 15. So these are pretty much nerfed as well. But, you know, overall, if you think about it, the how big the critical hit damage is still in the game, so you would definitely like to, you know, gather as much as you can, to scale it as high as you can. So what I'm trying to say is that, like, perhaps especially if you're going to be dropping a node like this one, it's going to be so much more important for you to get the nodes that are going to be, you know, rolling on your gems or rolling from your accessories or rolling from hits. So that is all I'm going to say. It's been some time. If you would like to check out the patch notes yourself, I'm going to be including this link down below. So do that. Obviously, there are some other fixes, especially there are lots of fixes and changes as well to some of the spells. I don't necessarily know if the patch alone managed to like break something that was already working. I'm not necessarily aware of that. But let me know in the comment section if there was such a thing. Let me also know if this patch actually like touched your build in one way or the other, you know. If your build is stronger now, or if your build is like a lot worse. I'm guessing like most of the players were at the very least checking out the bleeding edge at some point. So definitely let me know what you guys think about the bleeding edge changes. That being said though, I'm going to be calling this right here. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, guys.